Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Cara.
You know how we always talk about do-overs?
Yes.
If I could take a do-over, I would do what Christina Geist did before her kids went to college. So in the year before Christina launched her daughter, her oldest, she embarked on an accidental project, not accidental really, but like unanticipated, I would say, where she started writing down reflections and truisms about the lessons she hoped her kids would take away when they left home, when they moved to the next stage of their life. And this is a conversation about that exercise and the book that followed from that. And it's like, honestly, oh my God, it was the best idea. I wish I'd done that. I mean, maybe it's because she's so amazing, but also it's such a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, Christina is so thoughtful and warm, and she has a background in writing books. I mean, not these kind of books. She is the author of the Growing with Buddy series of picture books for kids, and New York Times bestselling author, and she's an entrepreneur, and she does branding and all of this stuff. But this book is just like a beautiful, it's like a Fabergé egg of a book for launching college kids. I don't know how else to describe it. And
that was a random one, but I agree.
But Cara's on board with a totally random description, and you'll see exactly what we mean. Get the book, read the book, you'll listen to our conversation. And it is just like in those moments when you can't believe this is where you are in life and this is where your kid is in life. It's like a lifeline to make sense of it all and to help layer on meaning and context in really valuable ways. So we hope you enjoy this conversation with Christina Geist. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Vanessa. Hi, Cara.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
We're so happy you're here, partially because we met your less good half. Is that how one might say it? Your lesser half. Your very lovely
other half.
Your other half. See, that's how a generous person would say it. If someone was like, I met your husband, he would be like, oh, you met my wife. She's my better half. I'd be like, yes, you met my less good half. We met Willie on Morning Joe a couple of years ago, and we were super psyched because we knew you guys had teens, and we were like, he totally gets it. He's living it. And then Mika was on camera from DC, and I was like, oh, she's raised teens, great. And then the third person at the desk that morning, where I had the craziest news anchor hair ever, it was like 20 feet wide, was Mike Barnacle. And I was like, oh God, like, I can't believe I'm going to talk to Mike about porn. Like, I don't even know how to do this. Like, do they even talk about porn in Boston? And needless to say, he was a total champ. He like got right into the puberty and porn conversation, and it was such a blast. Mika was trying to get me to say all sorts of shocking things on television, which I did not say. I found my way around it. Cara got all the questions that were never going to be used in hilarious memes and clips later on. She got all the sciencey stuff.
You put MD after your name and you just kind of slide by. That's fine.
You get out of that.
You
those
get
messes.
a pass.
Yeah. So we handed Willie a book, and I was like, okay, this is for you, but it's really for Christina. And he was like, okay, I got it. And I always wondered, I was like, did he actually give her the book? I have just found out, everyone, that not only did Christina get the book, but she's now handed it off to other people in her life, which is kind of apropos of what we're going to talk about today, Christina, which is your new book, Before You Fly Away. And I swear to God, tears. Like, I didn't even have to open the book, and there were tears. But before we get there, we just have to do a little backstory about you and Willie, because you have an origin story in your adolescence.
Sure.
And for those of you who think that middle schoolers or high schoolers cannot fall in love and don't feel things deeply and meaningfully, Christina, tell us your origin story.
I will. First of all, thank you for having me. And I love the work the two of you are doing. I think it's so important. And also just hits home with me, and I know so many other parents out there, in your tone, your delivery, and your credibility is matched by your ability to really understand and empathize with parents today. So I just want to commend you for your whole platform. And I love this idea of taking something and then just allowing the snowball effect to happen around it, but staying true to your core message, and then finding other ways to deliver that. So I really admire the work you're doing, and I am so honored to be here. So
all right, we're done with this podcast.
I know,
this was great.
Well,
it was great to have you.
Now we can go to break.
Can you tell that Christina's a brand strategist in addition to being a writer? Because she's like, I was like, oh my God, that's like the nicest. So everyone's always like, you guys do too much. You're doing too many things. And now someone's like, no, I get it. You're doing exactly right. So thank you for that compliment on many, many layers. Okay, let's talk about adolescent love.
So back to middle school. So, I grew up in Ridgewood, New Jersey, and it's a nice leafy suburban town about a half an hour outside of New York City. If you're from this part of the country, you can kind of picture your own version of that town. It's the kind of town where there are 6 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 1 high school, right in the center of town, big red brick building, in the football field that you drive by on your way to the train station, all that stuff. So I grew up, I'm the second of 4 kids. I have an older sister. And then 10 years later, a younger brother and a younger sister, same parents, same marriage. That's another episode. But I have this interesting background of being a sibling, but also being a much older sibling. So that kind of feeds into a lot of things I think about sort of my life and philosophy and work that you guys are doing too. So anyhow, I show up at middle school, George Washington Middle School, first day of school in 6th grade. And in my homeroom class, the teacher, Mr. Kaplan, who recently resurfaced in our lives, which is fun, he said on the first day of school, if you went to this elementary school, go stand over here. If you went to this one, stand over here. And if you went to this one, stand over here. And so we all did that because the 3 elementary schools pooled to a single middle school. And then in the middle of the room are a couple of kids who didn't go to any of those 3 elementary schools. And one of them was this very tall, lanky kid, blonde at the time. His hair turned brown, I guess in puberty or later on in our teenage years. But at the time he was more blonde. And it was Willie Geist. And he had gone to one of the elementary schools on the other side of town, and his family had relocated before middle school. So he didn't go to any of the 3. So he was kind of standing there. And I remember that as my first impression of him. And I do remember that moment. So I'm 11 at the time. It's funny because all these years later, we both just turned 50 this year. I feel like he's sort of always been a version of that guy. He's very tall. First thing people say when they meet Willie in real life is, "Oh my gosh, you're so tall." So he's almost 6'4". He's like between 6'3" and 6'4". So he is physically like a presence in a room. And he is the kind of person that's just kind of comfortable in his own shoes, which at the time were high top Converse.
Size 12.
On point.
He is, he's size 13 shoe now. So he probably was about a 12 then. He's just always been kind of comfortable, confident, but not in a cocky way. And the attention just kind of naturally shifts to him in a room, whether he was an athlete growing up, he's very funny, he's very smart. We were in a lot of the same classes when we were young. No offense to a lot of my girlfriends, but I tended to be in classes with all the guys, this one group of dudes and me, all the way from middle school through Ridgewood High School. So when people ask me now, oh, he's been on TV for all these years and, he does all the work that he does publicly. Are you surprised by that? My response is always no. I'm not surprised by that because I am proud of him. I am happy for him. Of course, I celebrate all of his success, but I'm not surprised by it because he's kind of always been this guy.
But brass tacks, when did you start dating?
So we dated, we were always friends. We dated, we had a crush on each other like end of 8th grade. And then you go away for the summer, So, and I remember I called him over the summer between 8th and 9th grade. It was a big deal. I called his house because, we had to call each other's houses.
Yeah.
So
I
we
bet
dated,
you still remember his phone number, but I won't ask you to repeat it. Yes.
Of course I do. And so we dated for a little bit at the beginning of freshman year in high school. And then I broke up with him. And we went out, and I went out with, a couple older boyfriends, freshman, sophomore year. Junior year, we got back together. Or I don't know if you count that as back together. We dated junior and senior year of high school. Senior year of high school, I was one of those kids that was on the wait list until like June of senior year of where am I going to college? I'm not actually sure. I was on the wait list at one school. I was into another. He and several kids from our high school had all decided to go to the other school. I didn't get in off the other wait list. So all of a sudden I had to go to my boyfriend's house right before high school graduation and say, hey, we're going to the same college.
Oh my God.
Which was the weirdest thing and unexpected.
Talk about awkward.
And awkward. I mean, really awkward because no one does that. So we had to decide, do we break up? Do we what do we do? We get to college and we attempted to break up multiple times. It wasn't dramatic or tumultuous. We just thought it was what we were supposed to do. So we broke up multiple times freshman year in college until we just gave up on breaking up. And we were like, why are we bothering with this? Because we were never really that couple that was kind of like off in the corner being a couple. We were always just at the party and happened to both just be at the same place at the same time. Because when you grow up together, that's kind of how you are. You're not like, we'll be going on spring break together. Well, the rest of you are in like Cancun,
Flex.
We would go with our friends. We were always with our friends. So we dated through college, broke up after college for 3 years, moved to different cities, started different lives. And then kind of both realized, ooh, wait a minute. Maybe we really are supposed to be together. Got back together at 25, got married at 28. So we met at 11.
It's a saga.
Dated for the first time when we were 14.
Met
and got
at
married.
The beginning of puberty. And you got married at the end of brain development.
Yes, Cara. I guess that's medically true. Yes.
There we go.
There you go. Yeah. Which explains why you ended up getting back together.
That's the backstory.
So we're going to come back to relationships and moving from high school to college and relationships and all of that stuff. But let's dive in a little bit to why you wrote Before You Fly Away. And, your background is in writing. You wrote a New York Times bestselling children's book, and those focus on routines for parents and adults and kids, like bedtime and adjusting to school and making new friends. So lessons in that way. And in some way, your new book is a continuation, and in other ways, it's a departure. Can you talk about what inspired it? And then we're going to dig really deep into this topic.
Yeah, sure. So yes, I've written 3 picture books for children. That all started pretty late in my life. I sold my first picture book manuscript when I was 40. And I think I've always had stories dancing around in my head. I've always been the type of person that when I'm thinking about something, I'm thinking about how I'll say it or how I would write it. I think in words is the easiest way for me to kind of describe. And so it's natural for me at moments of emotional connection to express that by writing it down. That's kind of just always been part of the way I process things in my life. And even so much when I was turning 40 and my college best friends from college were turning 40, I launched a business based off of the memory boxes we were making for one another, where we would capture messages and photos from everyone in someone's life and package them and print them inside of a really beautiful lacquer box. And that became a business, thank you, called Boombox that I ran for 8 years and grew as a consumer brand, as a business. And it was all about expression and using your words. And so here I was this past year. My oldest was a senior in high school. She has just graduated. She's about to head off to college any day now when this episode will be airing. And I found myself living with my high school senior, observing the pressures that she was under on a daily basis. And at the same time, processing quietly my own emotions about the fact that she would be leaving our household. And so over the course of her senior year, I didn't want to be another voice in her ear with anything other than quiet support for what she was going through. So I needed to take these thoughts I was having and put them somewhere. So I just kind of had a note in my phone going that was the repository or the little journal in the notes app of the things that, oh my God, does she know this? If I want her to walk away from this house after 18 years and know what it meant to grow up here and what it meant to have us as parents, would she say what I think she would say? And so I started to sort of just put these things in my phone. And then I realized I had about, 100 or so of these statements. And it got to be mid-year, maybe around February. And I heard from my book agent from my children's picture books, who I talk to now, every now and then. And I kind of given myself a little breather from thinking about writing another book for a while and sort of focusing on things at home and just allowing myself to kind of have some free space. Because I think when you're a writer and you've done one thing once or you've had success with something, then people just kind of expect that you're going to keep doing it again and again and again. And
Cara has no idea what you're talking about.
I mean,
10 books later, she's like, I'm done. I'm not writing another book. I'm done.
I call it a breather. I like that word. It's a breather.
Yes,
I'm taking a breather for the rest of my life. Yeah.
Okay. And I support that. But the people who work around you, who, their livelihood or their professional success is related to you, don't want you to take that breather.
Yes. And that's how you get you get the sort of slow, gentle, then really profound suction back into that world. Although the way you landed there is quite authentic.
Correct. And so
which is amazing.
I think we have a kind of, maybe this goes back to like the branding muscle in me, is that there tends to be this kind of inclination in the world we live in that when something's good, do it this way and that way and that way and that way and that way. Right. And sort of, and then what's the next iteration of it again and again and again. And after I'd written these 3 picture books and they're all about the same character, I was like, he's done. He's not going to get any older. He's done what I want him to do. He's not going
through puberty.
He's not going to go through puberty, at least not with me.
Yes, we're going to press pause on his puberty. Yes,
yes, like he's going to stop here. And so I talked to my agent in the winter about this idea, which became Before You Fly Away, and I sent it to her and she was like, I think this is great. We could pitch it. And I realized, oh, wait, okay, if we pitch this out, it's going to take at least a year. It doesn't have as much artwork as a picture book. My picture books take 2 to 3 years. But there's no way this will be done this spring for my daughter's graduation. And my son is turning 16, so he's about to drive. So they're both sort of leaving in their own way. And I am, I also have this kind of entrepreneurial side of me of let's just figure it out ourselves. And so I called my business partner, Todd True. True Geist is a branding firm that we run together. He thinks in pictures, I think in words. That's how we work. And we've worked together for 20 years in the branding and design world. I was like, hey, knock, knock, can you help me make this book? And he's the kind of guy that's like, yeah, let's figure it out. So we did. We figured it out, you guys. We designed and produced Before You Fly Away on a self-publishing platform in 6 weeks.
So here you are, ready to launch. 1 child, 1.5 children, right? If one's driving, 1.5 children,
Yes.
and a book. And it's a beautiful confluence of things. I want to sort of go back 6 months in time, 8, 9 months in time to the notes that you were taking, the brain dump that you were doing as this project was beginning, because it really is authentic in the most beautiful way. This book. Was the original framing lessons for yourself, things that you were reflecting on that you had learned, lessons that you hoped you had imparted? Did you do that thing? I think you're far more evolved than I am. I think I would have written.
This was going to come up.
You knew this was always coming. I think I would have written the notebook of what I wish my kids would answer if a stranger asked them, like, "What did you write, Vanessa? Is that where you figured I was
thought you were going to say the things that my kids will tell their therapist someday of how I screwed up.
That too. But whose lesson was as you first started keeping a list? Was it through your eyes, through their eyes? And did it change over time? Did that morph as you developed this accidental book?
I think it was the things I hope that they know are the rules of life if you've been raised by me. If that makes sense.
It's great. Yes.
I hope that they could have set, if you had said, hey, your mom's written 50 things, and I try to use as discreet and as little language as possible.
Right. Which is the way to a teen's heart. You keep it short and sweet. I mean, if my husband had written this book, it would be like 8,000 pages long, because all of his lectures of our children and all his weird metaphors and similes and references would have been thrown in. And like our kids would have stopped reading after 5 pages. But the trick with this is like, it's really like little golden nuggets page by page. And some of them are like, oh yeah, I would have expected that. And other ones are kind of unexpected.
Okay, so I want to get into them. And I want to ask this as we get into them. I want to ask, are they as authentic as they feel? Like, is this stuff that, as you said, there are things that you wish they would sort of reflect upon as being raised by you, but have these been achieved currently, or are these still aspirational?
Well, are you asking for friends?
In the introductory page, I say these are life lessons, some big, some small. Some were learned the hard way, others by observation, while several are still a work in progress. Lesson number 1, after all, is to be nice to yourself. So I am still working on a lot of this every day. So I really did not intend for this to be preachy. I didn't intend for it to be something that was embarrassing to my kids. There were a lot, Cara.
That's a high bar, Christina.
Both of you probably would have liked some of the others. So 50 made it in the book. It's the year I turned 50. It felt like the right number. There are 50 more that were on the page. Some I didn't include just because they were sort of repetitive and saying the same thing 3 different ways. But also some of them were more about like the Friday and Saturday nights, I think it was, I can't remember, Vanessa. I think it was you, Vanessa, on social recently where you were like saying, before they leave the house, don't touch a pill. Don't touch a pill.
No pills,
don't ever
no
touch
powder.
a pill. And I was like, yes, this is right. So there was some stuff like that in that list, but I decided to just not go there. Maybe that's a whole nother book, to be honest. Like, before you go out on Saturday night. And that's meant for kids that are a little bit older. But
let's co-author that book, Christina. I would write that book with you.
Okay, let's do it. Now I've got this self-publishing thing cracked. I can figure this out. But yeah, I tried to focus on actually like 8 to 80. I mean, things that don't alienate anyone, that felt pretty evergreen and pretty universal. And what I originally did with this is the 2 kind of sample copies that we printed, first 2, I handed to my kids and I told them we had a private moment in our kitchen where I was like, this is what I've been up to the last couple of months. And, I had a little cry, and they were both like totally dumbfounded. And then as they both started to leaf through it, they were like, yeah, of course. So I think if you had handed them a blank piece of paper numbered 1 through 50 and said, your mom wrote her 50 rules, what do you think they are? I think that the majority of them, they would have written down.
It'd be such a good exercise.
Yeah, it's too late now. I probably should have done that, but oh well.
I'm thinking I'll do it as a summer fun project. That would be really fun for them. But like maybe just 10 rules you think your parents.
Yeah, or 10 lessons.
10 truisms. Yes, exactly. 10
book, Christina, I mean, my favorite, we'll go through a few of our favorites. My personal favorite is rinsing something is not the same as washing it. I mean, I like just about wet my pants when I read that, because I was like, I mean, and that's optimistic that it even gets to a source of water where it could be rinsed, as opposed to like somewhere on a shelf or a desk or something like that. But that one really made me giggle. There's a bunch of themes, and it's not organized by themes. It's a mixture of all different things that sort of tug at different parts of our hearts and our minds. But I want to go back to a comment you made earlier to explore one set of truisms, which is pushing back on the pressure that life puts on us, pushing back on the sort of, as our friend Jenny Wallace talks about, the achievement culture, the toxic achievement culture, and sort of really getting your priorities straight. And there are two that I pulled, and you guys may have others. One is your life is measured in relationships, not your accomplishments, which is something we often say, but don't always follow through on as parents. So I want to talk about that. And then if you spend your time coveting other people's stuff, you will never be satisfied. Or as my mother always says, there will always be someone richer, thinner, and more successful than you. So stop trying to be any of those things. But I want to was that coming from watching your high school senior go through this crazy, frankly, broken college admissions process? Was that coming from you as a mom? Like, what were the sources of those truisms?
Your life is measured in your relationships, not your accomplishments, is wholeheartedly the way I was raised. And so that is, my maiden name is Sharkey. And if you grew up in Ridgewood, New Jersey in the 90s, you know a Sharkey. We are definitely, I'm one of 4 kids. My parents were constantly surrounded by friends. Their friends were our family, and they, without ever speaking those words, raised us 100% according to this kind of philosophy that was never spoken aloud, that, at the end of the day, it's your relationships that define you. And don't get me wrong, I come from a very high achieving household. We're not schlumps. We definitely, came home with a certain report card, and there were high expectations that we had as a family and that we still place upon ourselves in life. You have to have the accomplishments or you can't, pay the bills. So it's not that they don't matter, but they should serve your relationships, not the other way around. So you shouldn't end up in transactional relationships that you're in because they serve just your career or your ambition. Your relationships should not serve your accomplishments. Your accomplishments should give you the tools, the money, the free time, and the fun to enhance your relationships. So that's 100% the life I grew up understanding, even though my parents still have never said that out loud. And then as far as the coveting other people, we raised our kids in New York City until my daughter was 15 years old. And then we moved to the suburbs. So my kids have this kind of like dual childhood. And the thing I thought that was so interesting about being in New York is that you don't really know where people live. You can have very good friends and you've never seen their apartment.
Mhm.
And you don't even know if they own a car, let alone what their car looks like. And you have friendships that are really not related to material things at all. You're kind of like, your playground is the city. You're out in the playgrounds. You're out on the street. You're doing stuff. You're not like in each other's homes talking about what kind of countertops you have. It's just not the way you live. But then there are moments where you're aware of other people's wealth, right? And that becomes clear in some ways or another, right? Someone's got this thing they do on the weekends that's different from you. And also when kids are in dress code, which I feel so strongly about, you also don't even know anything because you don't know what kind of brand of clothes they would be wearing because you're not wearing those. You're wearing this like kilt, you know? And so I found myself to be a strong proponent of dress code too, which I didn't grow up that way, but I think it really does help to kind of neutralize all of that noise around material things. But that was a conversation I had with my daughter pretty, early on in elementary school was, look, someone's always going to have more, and you're always going to have more than some of the people in your life. And you need to make what's interesting about you never the things. That's not what's interesting about you.
I find it fascinating that you didn't utter the words social media or tech in that description, because this concept has been around far longer than these technology platforms. This is a very, you talk about how your parents raised you a little bit, and these are things that are filtering up from your own childhood, right, through your child rearing. But it is true that whether, sure, we could talk about what people see online, but frankly, real life is enough of a sandbox, if you will, for us to be able to show our kids that it's who you are that matters, not the things you have and all the rest. And I think we're so quick, generally speaking, to point to all the ways in which we and our kids are inundated with imagery of all this stuff. But this lesson applies independent of that. It has nothing,
Yes.
It is amplified by that, but it really has nothing to do with that. It's really about, and frankly, all of the lessons, right, are really about in real life experience and connection. I laughed at stay up and watch the sunrise. You can sleep on the plane home. And I laughed because, while that is so beautiful, in my family, our value is sleep. So to the point where we sometimes miss the sunrise, but we're well rested and we feel better. So I was laughing out loud, like, what would my version of that be? And it would probably be, go to bed at 7:00 if you want to. It's like same coin, different side, but you do you.
Yes. And it is ironic coming from, we're an early morning television household. So Willie and I are in our bed at I laugh that we're like those grandparents from Willy Wonka who just live in the bed, in the living room, like all the grandparents are just in that
I
bed.
would have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm like last night, I'm in my bed with the weighted blanket with my book. And I looked over and I was like, damn it, it's only 8:30. And I'm like, it's too soon to be in my bed with my book. So I'm either that person, or if I'm on the trip, stay up till the sunrise, you can sleep on the plane home. So I deliberately put, you can sleep on the plane home to imply that's, you're all on an adventure, and that those two sides of you are welcome. And you should honor both of them. So anyone that knows me on the big party nights of my life is like, oh yeah, no, she's the last one to go to bed, which is
what's
100%
doubly
true.
implied is take the adventure.
Yes, of course.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
Christina,
Yes.
it was so funny because I got to the page that says costume parties are more fun. And I was literally just talking to one of my kids about how often in college we got dressed up. like
Yes.
in costume. I mean, I also just received some pictures of myself in said costumes from a friend who just turned 50, and we just celebrated her 50th birthday, and she sent me some shocking photos of me. Shocking, just like
But not
unflattering
shocking, right?
unflattering and ugly, not like me naked or anything like that. I was trying to describe to my kids what it was about. I mean, I also went to a women's college, and so we were constantly just sort of like playing dress up, but like as 20-year-olds instead of as, 4-year-olds. And guys would come to visit us because like it was our place and they would come. And I was trying to describe it to my kids, and they couldn't get, like, they were trying to understand it because it was so different from their reality. But when we started talking about dressing up and costumes, like that, they could get, they could enjoy the concept of just sort of being someone else or something else for a little while, and being in community that way. So it was like you read my mind. But I'm wondering how kids push back, because they get to college, and you have yet to experience this, and we're going to talk about what your plan for kind of launching your daughter is. But they get to college, and there's lots and lots of fun. There's also more pressure and new stressors and all of that. And I'm wondering if there's lessons in the book that you're thinking about for your daughter in that way, sort of like the ongoing, yes, achievement is important, but the sort of ongoing prioritization in life.
Yeah, I mean, there are a bunch of lessons in the book are about like sort of relationship dynamics, right? And I don't mean specifically romantic relationships, but just kind of like how you operate and move through the world. And again, I tried to like distill these down into their like most simple rudimentary expression. And so like one of them is, people or friends are like magnets. Some attract, some don't. Let it be. And this is something that and it's actually hilarious because magnets will all attract if you just turn them the right way, but just humor me on this one. And this is something that I had said to my son. My son, by the way, is 16 when this airs, and I am wearing his gaming headphones. So if anyone's watching the clips of this interview, like out where you guys might share a video, this is me and my son's gaming headphones. So I'm in his mindset right now. But the magnet thing, the magnet thing felt like when he was younger, a way for me to be like, if it's not matching, just move on, let it be. Stop fighting it. Stop stating the obvious, right? Just move along. And so that one is such for like a young person, but it really isn't. I feel like as adults, like we need to just let it be. If you don't match with somebody, there's plenty of room for them to be happy and for you to be happy. Just let it be. I had a lot of things written down that were for this other book, right? About the Saturday night, but one that did make it in here is that like your phone is not a substitute for a real life friend when you're walking home at night. And to me, that's like this dependence on your device as some kind of safety tool that you have is wrong. Because when you're alone walking home at night, and by the way, this is me at 50 years old walking home from dinner in Manhattan if I'm in the city, the phone is not a friend. The friend is the person that you trust, who you go to the party with, and you have a plan for how you're going to leave at the end of the night, and you don't leave without the friend. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I'm harboring some of these fears about the way that they'll go out into the world and the decisions that they'll make. And just, remember your phone is not a friend. A friend is a real person.
I mean, that's a whole book. It's a really profound statement, actually. Right? Because for our generation, the phone enhanced friendship, right? I mean, certainly the one attached to the wall did. And for their generation, in many ways, it has redefined that word, that concept. Right. You friend someone, right?
Yeah.
Which is sort of a fascinating, it's really so interesting. So what is your plan? I mean, you're on the precipice. You're right there. You've done more deep thinking than many in advance. You certainly more than I did. People always say like, how, are you ready? How's it going to feel? And you're like, yeah. But you've really done the thinking because you've gone through this process. So, do you have words of wisdom to your future self? Like, is there anything that you want to hold true to so that when you get the first phone call that there's a bad day or a heartbreak or a letdown or, fill in the blank with whatever it might be, like is there anything that you're holding on to now that's going to steel you for what is coming, which is an incredible growth trajectory that's going to be bumpy?
Yeah. I think what I put under my pillow at night is that I think I will get that call.
Oh, I love that.
And so that to me is enough. That I think that I'll get the call. I think that we've built that relationship where I'll get the call, but I think also, there's sort of two lessons from the book that kind of resonate with what you're saying. One is you will break a heart. Someone will break yours. When this happens, I will be here. Right? I know that's going to happen and I'll be here when it does to support you. But then there's the flip side lesson, I think is 42 is figure it out. You're 100% capable. Right. And I feel like those two things, either it's a heartbreak or it's a bad test or it's a bad this or it's a bad that, but it's also figure it out. You're 100% capable. I think adults need that reminder. And I hope that not just saying it, but like demonstrating that and modeling that for my kids, it will remind them that they are capable.
I mean, it's so funny because sometimes you get another kind of phone call, which is like your kid is, out somewhere and having a great time. And for whatever reason, they decide to FaceTime you. This happened to me this year with my freshman. And I was like in bed I wear a nightgown and my hair's like crazy and I have my mouth guard in. But when your kid FaceTimes you, you answer. Like I was asleep. You pick up because you don't know what kind of call it is. It could be, any kind of call. And I answer and I must have looked like someone out of like a horror movie, like someone who lived in the attic or something like that. And I answer and I'm like, smile. He's like, hey, and he's like with 8 girls and they're like, hi, Mrs. Bennett. And I'm like there with my mouth guard. I must have looked absolutely bananas, but I was like, I'll take it. I'll take the good phone call because you never know when the bad phone call is coming or the phone call that really needs you. And I think that the idea that you've built enough trust and connection with your kid before they left in order to be able to receive that phone call is such an important message. The funny thing is, Christina, I find, and Cara, I don't know if you find this, I hear more from my kids when they're away at school than I do when they're living under my roof. Like they're gone.
From one.
Right. Yes, I should. Right. They're gone and I hear from them constantly. And then they're home and like, I'm like, hello.
Yeah.
Is anyone there?
I'm in the kitchen.
Christina, hot tip. Do you have a dog?
Yes.
Yes. So when you don't hear from them, when they don't do the outreach, the surest way to hear from them is to send a picture of the dog. They will not respond to the email saying, hey, did you pay your invoice for the semester? Hey, did you register for classes? Just checking, making sure. But they will absolutely respond to a
to the
picture of
dog.
the dog.
Okay,
And they will
good tip.
not-
I'm going to write that in the back of the book, number 51.
Right. And they won't respond to emails. So don't bother emailing them. You have to text
Email
them
is like a horse and buggy situation for
I
them.
know.
You
Yes.
can
I
send
know.
them a
I know.
screenshot of the email you sent them and say,
Oh,
hey, can you
genius.
take care
Yes.
of this, please?
Yes.
Are
Genius,
you a
Vanessa.
crier, Christina? Are
Oh,
we
yes.
preparing? Okay.
I'm a
Is Willie
huge
a crier?
Yes, but I'm worse. I'm like, I mean, my family, they'll like set their little
Mm-hmm.
like timer as soon as I open my mouth to be like, okay, here she goes. Oh,
Yep.
she made it 10 seconds. And that's my extended family, not just like the family in this house.
The Kroll set, my whole side of the family cries. And then Roger cries more than anybody, but not his side of the family, which is why he has to live in America because no one in England cries.
This is so
He had
out
to
of
move
character.
across. He had to move across the world. But he's a silent crier and he wears glasses.
He really is a silent crier.
The tears just sort of stream down his face and he sort of wipes them, but you kind of don't notice them. I am not a silent. I'm like a get choked up and then it's like full body cry. So hot tip. When you're leaving her at school that first weekend, you do the drop off, you've like done the move in and the Target run, and you'd have her having a final meal together. Say goodbye to her, not in the restaurant where half of the freshman class is also sitting and having a meal with their parents. Go around a corner, go down the block and around a corner to say goodbye, because my son looked at me his freshman year, and he could see the tears were like starting to fall, and he was like, check. And then we pay the check and he pulls me down the block and around the corner. And then he opens his arms and I literally just fall, and he's like Willie size. So I just like fall into his arms and I hold on to him. And I think Roger had to like cut his shirt so he could remove me from my son's body because I was like holding on to him so far. But here's what I'll tell you for all of the criers out there. Now, whenever I leave him, if I'm wearing sunglasses or, I'm not looking, he looks to make sure that I am crying. Like he wants the crying. He wants to make sure the tears are there. He's going to make fun of me, but also it's like, it's a sign to him that I mean, of course I love him, but it's like a sign of how much I'm going to miss him.
And if you're not a crier, it's okay.
Yeah, because your kids know that.
Because your kids, right. It's whatever your authentic self is. Like, I'm not a crier and I'm not a crier. I'm like somewhere in the middle of that yardstick. So when I was walking away, Vanessa had given me her hot tip. So we were literally around a corner, gave my big hug. The tears started to flow a little silent, a little bit of, right?
I do the like body shake. Yeah.
Yep, it was very subtle. It was and I was like, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. Right? That's kind of cry. And then I was walking away. I was like 3 steps out and she was waiting for me to turn around and say something because that's what I do. And I turned around and Vanessa, I don't know if I've told you this, but I was like, no pills, no powder. And she's like,
you never told me that.
Okay, Mom.
Oh my God. So Roger's version of that.
That's the message. That's your
right.
number one.
And in the book, you
I
say
love that.
Roger's message
Live
is always
really what it meant.
make good decisions.
Make
and I'm
good
like,
choices.
having now raised 2 young men well into young adulthood, I would say they did not always make good choices. But wait, there's a great lesson in the book, which is, I mean, besides order dessert with a scoop of vanilla, which of course I love. Wait, where is the one about you only get one body? Oh, take care of your space, take care of your things, take care of your body. You only get one. And I was like, oh my God, yes. I mean, they can't necessarily hear it or take it on board in that moment, but it's like one of those things. If you keep saying it, it will eventually get in. Christina, what's your favorite lesson? Maybe we can close with the one that's like sits deepest in your heart.
I think for me, it's use your words. They're your superpower. And I think because I think that sort of defines the way I show up in my little corner of the world. I always say, this didn't make it in the book, but most of us are not going to change the world, but we can leave a positive footprint on our corner of the world. And so when I think about my little piece of the world and the way I've left my mark, it is always with my words. And I do really believe that your words are your superpower in a way. And I like to describe them that way, as opposed to describing them as something that could be weaponized, right? Like flip it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's so easy to use your words. And we just did it here today. But it's so easy to do it. I mean, when you're walking into Starbucks and the person walking out and you just say, "You look great today." Like, watch what happens when you do that, right?
You're the woman in the bathroom who compliments my outfit. And I'm like, done. I'm going to feel great for a month after that.
I'm probably her. Yeah. And it's not, we're not glitter and rainbows every day, all day. But I think you use your words. They're a superpower. And that's what the two of you are doing. That's what you're doing with your knowledge and your expertise and your ability to connect and your empathy. And you're both so smart. And, so I admire that about you. And I think that's what you're doing. So cheers to you.
We're trying. And it's so nice to be complimented on your own podcast. It's like,
why not?
I mean,
it's
right
such a
back
treat.
at you, Christina, in every single way.
So for people watching on YouTube, before you fly away, it's so beautiful. It's like everything about it is so lovely. I'm going to go now put it on the coffee table in our family room. I didn't want to do it before we recorded because I knew there'll be chocolate fingerprints all over it within an hour. I encourage people who are on the precipice of transition, of launching, of kids coming home and figuring out what's next, all of that. It's so beautiful and heartfelt, and it just feels nice in your hands. Like there's some books that just feel so good in your hand. And Christina, we can't wait to hear how it goes. Come back and visit us with all your lessons learned. And no joke, if you want to write the before you go out on Saturday night book, let us know. We're totally available to help with that one.
Yeah, that might be a fun collaboration. Thank you guys so much. Thank you both.
Thank you so much for listening. You can email us with questions, feedback, or episode requests at podcast@lessawkward.com.
If you want to learn more about what we do to make this whole stage of life less awkward for everyone involved, our parent membership, our school health ed curriculum, our keynote talks, and more are all at lessawkward.com.
And if you want products that make puberty so much more comfortable, visit myumla.com.